Hey guys, it's Maymay, and today I'm going to talk about paper crafting rules that I break and one that I never break. Now, let me say this to you first. I don't believe there's rules in paper crafting. I believe you paper craft to what works for you. But I'm going to show you some things I do, not all the time, but I catch myself doing it that goes against kind of the what we've been taught situation, and I'll tell you how I feel about them. Let's start with this. So this is a piece of 8.5 by 11 cardstock, and you and I both know if we cut this in half, we can get a card base, right? So I'm just going to cut this guy in half at 4 1/4 because I'm doing it the long way. And here's the first place. Sometimes I will cheat. Oh, I feel like I'm fixing to be judged so hard. Ready for this? Sometimes I won't score it. Now, it depends on the cardstock. And usually what affects me is time. More than anything, I'll get a little bit lazy and I won't pull out my scoreboard and I will just do this number, okay? Now, how much does it affect the card? Let's look. This is one that I just folded. Now, you can see it's warped and I could have done a better job. So there's one that I did not score. I just folded. Let's get the scoreboard out. And this is one we will score and do it correctly. So I'll score it at 5 1/2, which I can't read. There we go, 5 1/2. And then I will fold it over into my scoreboard like I'm supposed to do. Again, remember, supposed to do is loose, okay? I'm being loose with that. And let's see how different it is. It's very straight, isn't it? It looks a lot straighter than this guy who is very warped. I don't know if you can see that. But there have been times I have made a card doing this, put it in the mail and mailed it off, and no one was the wiser. So there are places and times where I break that rule and I don't always score things. Not always. Let's don't get into everything, but there are times I do that. So that's one thing. Sometimes I will break that rule. Another rule I'll sometimes break is not having mats, okay? And this is not really a rule, but we kind of tell ourselves we have to have all these mats for a card to be homemade or whatever. I like a one-layer card. Sometimes I'll do that. Let me show you what I mean. So using this stamp set that I think is so cute and is perfect for this kind of technique, I'm going to use the packages right here, and I'm going to stamp this on. Now, let me say this as I'm stamping. Everybody knows that a one-layer card is a technique. I'm not saying that this is a rule that I'm breaking or anything. This is a technique. But sometimes we put so much pressure on ourselves to think we have to have mats and layers and lifts and all that good stuff before we can send a card, when in reality, these are just as cute. Yes, they're quick. You know, let's don't be sad about that because sometimes we need quick, right? But we can do this and stamp these cute little images and let them do the work. Look how precious that is. And then we just come right over here and ink up our sentiment. Let's make sure we don't have it upside down. Let's ink up a sentiment to go underneath it. You can tell I can't talk and line up at the same time. And look how cute that is. And there's nothing wrong with sending that card and not spending hours and hours to make it look absolutely perfect. So I'll just tell you, sometimes I will do that and I don't feel sad about it. It does kind of feel like I'm breaking a rule. That's why I brought it up, because I feel like I should be spending so much more time making a card. But look how cute that is. So if you've set a rule for yourself that makes you think you have to do layers and different panels and yada yadas on your card, give yourself a break. Try making cards that are one level or one layer and send them out. And you'll see that you get the same smiles, which is really cool, right? So that's another rule. I'm going to do this a lot because there are no rules, but that's another rule I will sometimes break. Now, this is a biggie, okay? I wouldn't do this on this card because this cardstock is not thick enough for what I'm going to show you. But since I've stamped this, I want to show you this other rule that I will sometimes break, and that is this. Did you see that I stamped this with VersaFine? I did, and sometimes I will stamp something and then decide to color it later and realize I've used the wrong ink for what I want to use. Like today, I want to use an alcohol marker. So let me show you this, okay? Now, I don't think this is the best practice. I know that is not the way to do this, but if I've ever messed myself up and used the wrong ink, instead of scrapping this or even starting over, sometimes I'll do this. If you take this marker and you color and you don't get right to the line, if you let the ink run to the VersaMark, or to the VersaFine, I should say, which is a pigment ink, if you let the ink run to it and don't color over the line, you can sometimes get away with it. Now, you got to be very careful because you see here where I have these little lines in the middle. I have to be careful there because I can smear that ink. And a lot of times after this guy starts to dry, that ink can sometimes kind of bloom because of using the wrong two together. But this is a rule that if I'm in a pinch, if I've started a project and I just need to color something, especially something quick, instead of restamping, I'll just do this and I'll let you see here. Now I'm being careful because I promise you, if I went over and over that, it would move that black ink and I don't want to do that. But there have been times that I've had to do this. The other thing is you can always just punt and use your color pencils. But there are times in my crafting where a color pencil just won't do what I want it to do, or I may not have the right color. So if I'm very careful, I can make this work. Let me show you when it doesn't work. So this marker is not necessarily one I would use, but it's a good light color so you can see what will happen. The reason this is not perfect is because, look, if I did color this, do you see how that ink is blooming and moving? I'll even bring it up so you guys can see it. But can you see the difference here? You can see that. If you're very careful and don't put too much, don't saturate the page too much, you can get away with it. But right here, not how we want that to look. Let me bring it to the camera for you. So that's a rule I'll sometimes break, but I'm very careful with it. Like this one, it'll be fine. It won't bloom too much because I didn't oversaturate around the ink. But where you can see here that I did, I don't want it to look like that. So, though I feel like this is confessional. I don't do this often, honestly. This is not something I do all the time. I know which inks for which marker and which process, so I try to do that. But there have been times when I've been just a stamping and realize I've done it and go, okay, we can get away with this, especially if I'm not doing any blending. All right, another rule. So how about making a card that's not a standard size? Now, obviously, this is extremely mini, but this is another place I'll sometimes break a rule. If I need a card for like a gift bag or a present, something just to stick on a present, I will make something like this and treat it as if it's a full-size card, make it super cute, put it on the present, and go with it. Now, that's not really breaking a rule. That's really making something for a place that I want it to go. But another thing you can do is sometimes the envelope can dictate what size I want to make. You guys know with my Slimline cards, I don't use the standard size everyone else does. Let me show you. To be honest, I don't even know the standard sizes because these are my Slimlines right here. These are the sizes I use because they fit. This one fits in a number 10 envelope, and this is the one I use for my Slimline cards because I don't waste paper. I love using the little 6x3, and there's no waste. So those are my reasons for doing it. So are they breaking rules? Not necessarily. But you may find some envelope somewhere that you really love, and to make a card to go in them or make something to fit in them, you have to kind of edit the size. Don't feel bad about that. There's no rules, right? There's no rules in paper crafting. If you make a card to fit an envelope, go for it, because I do that too. And that's what I did here. So that's another rule I will sometimes break. Okay, you guys, this is a place where I really break the rules. Now, this is actually where the idea for this video came from, because someone asked me in a live show what sandwich I use for my 3D embossing folders, okay? And I want to show you this, okay? This is a 3D embossing folder. Can you see that? I'm going to squish it closed. See how thick that folder is? This is a standard embossing folder. I'm going to squish them together. Do you see the difference? This guy is 2.5 times as thick as this one. So you do have to use a different sandwich. Now, when we got our Gemini, we tried all of these out, and they worked with the folders that came with the Gemini. So like this is a Gemini embossing folder, and all of this was perfectly fine. But it did not work with these guys. Now, these aren't created for this machine, so they don't speak to each other the same. But what I do know is all you need to make one of these guys work is the right pressure. So here's what I did. I took all of these plates, every single one of them, and I tried them out. So for example, I would go, this says that I can use the plastic shim, the 3D embossing folder, then it tells me to use the magnetic shim, and then it tells me to use another plastic shim. That is not going through my machine, not at all. It's not going through. So what we did instead was we just kind of edited this sandwich until we found what works. Now, a lot of you guys were kind of shrieking when I told you that what I do for these big folders is this and this guy, and that's what I use, my magnetic shim. Now, I will show you. Do you see how much we use it, and we warped this guy so much? You might want to pick up a separate one of these to use for your dies and just use this one for your 3D embossing folder. Now, does this work in other machines? Yes. Here's the deal. All you have to know is the sandwich that works in your machine, okay? So if you have an embossing folder that you can't get to work, just try it with different plates. Once you find the right pressure through the machine, you're fine, and make yourself a note so you'll know. Now, this is the recipe that we actually got from Gemini in their little booklet, and we just did it on a piece of, printer paper and stuck it down so we'd know. And for the most part, these work, especially the dye information, okay? But this one is the one where I struggled, and so that's what I did. I sometimes cheated. But don't we do that with a lot of things? Don't we have ways of cheating different things to make them work? I think we've all kind of done that over time. And I'd rather use the machine than not use it, so it's better to play around and find what works. One more rule that sometimes I will break and get away with before I get into the one that I never break. Okay, check this out. These are fussy cutting scissors. How do we know that? Because they are made for this process. They are smooth on both sides. The blades are not serrated, so you get a smooth cut. To be honest, that's what you're looking for in your fussy cutting scissors, something that does not give a serrated edge and something you feel comfortable fussy cutting with, okay? What is fussy cutting? It's when you stamp something or there's something you want to cut out specifically, and we call that fussy cutting. Now, when do I cheat? All right, I don't like this, but I have been known to do it and put it on a card and moved on with my day, okay? These guys are not fussy cutting scissors. These have a tiny, actually called micro serrated edge. Do you see that? I'll turn it over. And on this side, it does not have it on this side. Okay, so there's a little serrated edge over here, and there's not one on this side. So if I hold my scissors right, I can get away with fussy cutting with these, and I won't get that serrated edge showing. Now, why would I ever do this? I'll just tell you. Sometimes tools walk from my desk. Sometimes I'll sit down and start to make a card, and you probably don't have this problem, but there's several of us that craft in this room, and so sometimes my scissors will end up either on the other work surface or in the other room, and we try for that not to happen, but it can. And when that does happen, I'd rather keep my workflow going than stop and go and get another pair of scissors. So this is a place I have been known to cheat, and let me show you. Let's see if you can see anything different. A little bit. It's not quite as smooth. Of course, I did not take my time on that. It's not quite as smooth. Can you see the serration on the back? Yeah, see that chewed up edge there? That's why you don't want to use them, especially the serrated side. But in a pinch, will I do it? Yeah, I'll do it. But I prefer to have these guys super close and at the ready all the time. But when they're not, I'd rather my workflow keep going so I can finish a project. All right, are you ready for this? The one rule I never break. Have I broken it before? Yes, but have I learned my lesson? 100%. And here's what it is. When cutting anything, when cutting cardstock, chipboard, anything in your trimmer, and it doesn't matter the trimmer, whatever trimmer you have, okay, I will never put my product in to the cut line at the top, put my blade, and pull down. Even when using a rotary cutter, even when using... I'm trying to think what else. Any cutter, I don't want to do that. And why is that? If our paper stop is at the top of our trimmer and we put our paper into it and then we pull down, we're just asking for this guy to get loose. Why is that? There's nothing stopping it here. There's no lip to keep it still. Instead, what I will always do is pull my blade underneath the project, okay, or underneath what I'm cutting, put it to the top, and when I cut, I will push up, and I get a much more stable cut. Why is this important? So many of you tell me your cuts are wiggly or wonky. Now, there's lots of other reasons that can happen. There's lots of reasons you can get a wiggly, wonky cut, but this one in particular will take away a lot of the frustration. Now, you might be thinking, but I've seen you pull down before. Well, let me show you this. There is a time when I will, and I'll show you. If for some reason I am putting my product, I got to get this where I can lift it up. If for some reason I'm putting my product to the bottom down here and my stop line is down here, do you see how that stops just like that? Then you might see me pull down, but that's because I'm putting pressure to that stop. Does that make sense? I think it does. Now, there's another time when I will float, and here's when that is. If I need to make a diagonal cut, sometimes I will, not sometimes, always, I will put my cardstock or whatever I'm cutting on the angle, and I will sink my blade. In this instance, I'm working really hard with my hand here to hold this still to get a really nice cut. There is that time. But for the most part, it's very important when you're cutting to put this guy to the stopper, to whatever is stopping it, and then bring the blade and push in the same direction as the stop. That makes sense, right? Because this stop will keep it level. When we pull down, no matter what, we are pulling away from this area, and even if it's minute, I can tell that I pull it down just the tiniest bit. So that's a rule I won't break. Have I in the past? Yes, but I have realized that it is worth it to cut in the direction of that cut bar so much that I will stop in the middle of a cut and redirect my blade just for that purpose. And again, with any trimmer, I don't care what trimmer it is, it works the same every time. Okay, guys, paper crafting rules, they don't exist. They don't. Do you? Here's what I want you to do. I want you to tell me in the comments below, what are some rules that you break? What are some things that you have been taught to do in your craft room that you do different? I'm so interested to hear, because I know we all have our thing, because our craft flow is different, and that's what makes us so cool. We say a lot of times, you do you. If something works better for you, you do that, and I'd love to hear what it is that you're doing. All right, guys, thanks so much for being here today. Don't forget to subscribe. Click that red button. It's free. Hit the little bell to know when I'm uploading videos. And let YouTube know if you enjoyed this video by giving it a thumbs up. Thanks so much for being here. Until next time, bye now.